got the distribution code, you got the placement, you did everything right. Somewhere between the purchase order and the shelf, something went sideways. Your product isn't there, or it's there, but it's wrong. Or nobody can tell you either way. Every CPG brand hits this wall, most of them heading more than once. I'm Jordan Karch, founder and CEO of my league. Know Thy Shelf is the show for founders and CPG superstars who are not taking anyone's word for what's happening on the shelf. Real stories, real data, one question underneath all of it. Your product is listed as a stock. Jack, it's great to have you. I'm so excited you joined. As co-founder of Rmbr, building a beverage brand that's expanding the idea of what it can be, while also navigating realities of retail in a very competitive manner. You start to remember with your brother, inspired by his health journey, ultimately led you down the path to your own healthier life. I'd love to get into that initial story of how do you go from a health journey to creating a CPG pretty rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, my health journey started a little bit earlier than most because I was an athlete growing up. I played competitive football and baseball and basketball at a very high level. So that was always kind of a part of my life, was taking care of myself, just exercising and being conscious of what I was consuming. But it wasn't until later that I started getting into herbalism, and I don't really want to call it biohacking, but just being really conscious of the things that you're putting in your body, and putting things that are going to give you energy, into your body to provide yourself with the proper fuel. And this was really inspired by my brother, who struggled with addiction for a long time, and through his recovery journey did so many things that helped him heal. And it was a no-brainer for me that I wanted to adopt a lot of these habits into my own life, such as drinking less or drinking nothing in terms of alcohol, herbalism, growing your own food, eating whole foods, and exercising and meditation, and all these different things that kind of play a factor into a healthy lifestyle. So, although it did start way back when I was younger playing sports, when I went to college, that all kind of went out the window, because as an athlete, I didn't really get to do all the partying and have a good time. So it was nice to be able to have that experience as well. But ultimately, that's what led me towards kombucha and reimagining the way that it's being consumed and perceived, because it hasn't been innovated since it's been in the commercial market or the natural market in 1995. So
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It seems like it was so long ago that kombucha came on the scene, but it's changed a lot. You've had a lot with probiotic sodas, healthy, better drinks, now become a major category. How did you think about Rmbr when you were coming into the space? Were you viewing it as an entrant into kombucha, or were you looking at it as more of a trade-off or as a different category entirely that you're trying to shape?
we really thought of it as an extension of the category, and focusing on the usage, because the usage and the way that it's marketing was only towards people that were extremely health conscious. And I even want to use the word hippie because of the packaging and the way that it's marketed. And we really wanted to change that. So we decided to really position it between a sparkling probiotic tea and a kombucha, and put it in a can. We were the first ones in Chicago to put it in a can and start selling it in grocery stores. And the whole idea ties back to making it a lifestyle beverage. So it has lacked that for so long, through packaging, through marketing, and through taste. And we really set out to change that with our brand.
And I think that's a great point. I always think of kombucha and the brands that had existed as almost treating it like a vitamin. You'd have one a day for probiotic health or your stomach or gut. But I do think flavor, an alternative to just sparkling water. I think that opportunity is really compelling, and it's cool to see what you guys have done with it, with even with just with the branding, making it much more youthful and progressive. But your background obviously was not necessarily in beverages. Being an athlete, you got into this space by volunteering at a beverage
Yeah,
company, right? Like, tell me about
right.
that. How did you make that first step? Was it with the intent to learn how to build your own brand, or was that just your first experience getting into the space and then you learned about kombucha from that space?
No, I knew that I wanted to start a kombucha brand, and the bigger vision was always a beverage brand, but starting with kombucha. So it was easy for me to do research and figure out if there are any other brands in the city of Chicago and I found one and reached out and asked if I can come and volunteer and learn about the business. Was always transparent about wanting to start my own operation. So I was grateful that they're willing to allow me to come in and kind of get a look behind the curtain, see what's going on and how to operate a manufacturing facility, right? Because a lot of brands these days go the co-packing route too, but to be able to experience what it's like to manufacture gives you all the tools that you need to hold your future co-packer accountable, but also to make sure that if you do make it at some point in the future and you do own your own manufacturing, that you have that experience as well. So yeah, I went in there and did everything from bottling to even making the product, and then slowly started making my own stuff within the space and had a shared kitchen there, and then made a connection through a high school friend that there was a co-packer down the street in West Loop who had a canning line and a couple bright tanks. So knowing that we wanted to transition it to cans, it was perfect timing, and it gave us the opportunity to dive a bit deeper and level up from a manufacturing perspective and have the proper equipment to start canning.
So from that point, do you treat your co-packer kind of as a partner, or do you treat them more as like a hands off? They're handling it. You'll just take the finished product. Because I see you, the guy that seems like you're going to be in there in the facility checking on the product.
Yeah, well, at the time when we first started, it was very much hands-on. I was still making the product. I was really just paying him rent for the space that we were occupying with our tanks, and that he had the can line and bright tanks, so paying him a fee to actually can it. And he really became a mentor for me too, and taught me so much about manufacturing and the beverage space. So I was very hands-on, and to this day, I like to be a part of the manufacturing process just so I can continue to learn and evolve and just refine our process and refine the way that our product is made. And kombucha is such a difficult product to make. I mean, it's damn near impossible to make it exactly perfect every single time with a traditionally fermented product. So it's important that, especially when you're getting a new co-packer up and running, whether it's kombucha or not, that you're there tasting the product and making sure that it's on point, so that the consumer is ultimately not able to notice, when you make a co-packing change or even like a slight tweak to improve the recipe.
Yeah, and how just walk me through really briefly, high level. What is the production process like for kombucha at scale? Because I think you probably could start in your kitchen. You can have the fermentation happening in your refrigerator, but when it comes to producing thousands and thousands of cans during a run, what is that actually?
You make a big batch of sweet tea, you mix it with some already fermented kombucha or starter liquid, let it ferment for as long as it needs to ferment to get to the desired pH and Brix level. And then from there, you're transferring it into bright tanks, cold crashing, carbonating, and then ultimately packaging the product into cans and then into trays.
Got it. And how big of a run are you guys typically doing these days?
Yeah, we're doing about 30 barrels, so it's a little under 1,000 gallons per run. And then yeah, we do that split between two flavors, and then we at our current partner, we're producing every single week.
Right. And so between the two flavors, which is the hero SKU? Which is the lead horse?
Our leading SKUs are lavender bliss and hibiscus ginger, which is really surprising for me. But the two that are gaining a lot of popularity right now are orange cream and lemongrass lime.
Okay. How many SKUs do you guys produce in total?
6.
Six. Okay. Going back to the beginning when you're making it yourself, what was the flavor? What was the profile at that time? And how different is it from what you guys are producing now?
The lavender, hibiscus, and rose were the first 3 SKUs. We've had those for the entirety of this business. So ever since I started formulating in 2019, those have been the hero SKUs. And then the blue dream, the orange cream, and the lemongrass lime came within the past 2 to 3 years. So a bit more recent.
And were you doing kind of the farmer's market hand selling initially when you were making your own, or did you have kind of the retail and distribution piece in mind from the very beginning?
And yes, did wholesale was always the idea, but we did start selling growlers and smaller glass bottles to friends and family, and then we'd go around and do some sampling events at Pure Bar or other juice shops and stuff like that. When we did get into the farmers market, but that was more of a marketing opportunity to spread awareness and drive velocity and trial to the store because nobody knew who we were. So being able to go to the farmers market, also be paid to be there and show people, hey, this is where you can buy our product. It was just a great opportunity that was super scrappy, but it was definitely worth it, and it helped us really build our presence in our hometown.
And you started somewhat focused on food service before retail. Is that right? What,
Exactly.
what was that strategy? I guess what was the underlying reason for that strategy, and how has that played into your retail expansion following?
Yeah. I mean, a couple reasons. One of them is because it's really tied to our mission and normalizing the consumption of healthy NA beverages in social settings. And the other reason is because there's not a ton of competition on the shelf. And believe it or not, there's a ton of people that go to coffee shops that aren't drinking coffee or already had a coffee and are looking for a snack and something to drink with it. So we just felt that that was a great opportunity to build community and also just really validate whether or not people are gravitating towards our product and willing to consume it. And that really helped us succeed when we pitched our first retailer, because we're able to say, hey, we have all this business already in Chicago, but we need to give them a place to buy it for where they go grocery shopping. And we weren't able to provide that at the time. We were only in food service. So it worked out, and Mariano's was our first local retailer at the tail end of 2023. And it was 44 locations. And I thought I was going to be rich.
That's 44, man. That first word makes you feel richer than that.
Yeah, it was exciting.
I remember the first I walked into a place, Vicente Foods, Los Angeles, when I started my coffee company. Walked in, I hand sold a case of coffee I had left over to get on the shelf. I remember, I think I sold it for $150. That was the easy. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And then you realize that there's some of the challenges that come with that. So tell me about that a bit. So you picked up Mariano's, you picked up 44 stores. That's a big change in execution and style of execution from food service and growlers. What was that experience like when you started to pick up 44? How did you manage it? What were you thinking with that? Like, what was that first couple months like?
Man, it was so hard. I was so naive. Still relatively naive and learning every single day. This industry humbles me on a daily basis. But we so we had to get cut in. So for those that I know but for those that don't know, getting cut in means that it's off cycle. You're not on the planogram, and when people are merchandising the shelf, they have an image of what the shelf's supposed to look like, and we weren't on that. So we also did self-distribution. So we went around all 44 stores. Jeff and I, our director of sales, we planned 4 routes. Had the receiving hours are from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. So we had to squeeze in about 10 or 11 stops in each route. And I would say at about 25% of those, we got rejected at the door. We're told that our product doesn't belong there. And so we had to call up the boss and make sure that that stop was going to be worth it. We were going to get the product in there. So we got the product in, and then we would go back a week or two later to check on the shelf, and the product's not even stocked. It's not even up. So it's been sitting in the back room, and all the merchandisers or the category managers were just telling us that you're not on the planogram. And I'm like, well, here's an email showing that we're supposed to be on the set, so can you please cut us in? So ultimately it probably took us like 6 to 8 weeks to finally get our product on the shelf, but that was just our first step into realizing, like, wow, what did we just get ourselves into? Like, this is not as easy as you think. And this was before I even knew about slotting. They didn't charge us slotting because we were a local brand. But then that's the cherry on top. It's like, okay, now I have to worry about my product being on the shelf, I have to worry about me being on the planogram, my price tags being up, and I have to pay you to be in here. Like, wow,
Yeah, for
that's wild.
the pot of gold that pay you for it. And
Yeah.
well, that's hard, and I'm sure you're at this point too, is as you grow and you pick up more stores and you start to figure that out, you get introduced to KeHE and UNFI and the distributor. Are you guys working through distributors at this point for any of your placements?
Yeah, we've totally shifted out of our direct distribution. So we still utilize a strong network of DSD distributors that are margin based and able to help us continue to build our food service segment and our private label segment of business. But I mean, outside of that, we work with UNFI and KeHE. UNFI does our fresh market business, and then KeHE does a lot of our Midwest grocery chains, and then Gelson's and Erewhon in the West Coast.
Yeah, so I mean that introduces the new dynamic, the new layer with these retailers. And obviously, small team, scrappy, still growing. You don't have salespeople in every market, and you're
Right.
picking up. What type of information are you able to get about those locations currently? Wide standing management, retail.
Through the distributors?
Yeah,
I mean, for UNFI and KeHE, they have portals where they have data on there, so you can see where the product's going and how much is selling and who's buying on a weekly basis. So that's super nice. I'm pretty sure it's newer for UNFI because I thought that they didn't used to have that. So I'm fortunate that they have it for my time because it's great to have that visibility and have an idea of what's going on. But outside of that, when you work with smaller distributors, you have to request reports, and more times than not, they're willing to share them with you because we're trying to help. But I feel that sometimes distributors think that we're trying to take customers away from them and send them in a different direction. But as you build that trust with them and work with them over time, the reports asking for them is no problem. And ultimately, it's so that we can help you. You know, we want to know if there's a customer that hasn't ordered in a couple months, so that if you're having a hard time getting in touch with them, maybe we could hit them up and be like, "Yo, is there something that you need from us? Is there something we did wrong? Like, how can we help?" So there's definitely ways to get access to that data, but sometimes outside of these big distributors, you have to be a little bit scrappy and just not be afraid to ask for it.
Yeah, it's I think even we even saw with distributors, you still have those gaps where you have those reorder velocity drops. You go, why? And why is it suddenly not getting ordered? Why? And I think that was the part we always really were trying to crack was that element of that hometown feel. You could walk into Mariano's, you could see, does it look good? Does it not look good? What are my competitors doing? It's somewhat really heavily discounted. With the distributor piece, you get the distribution. We always look at it like a really good supply chain partner that you still want to figure out how to invest and execute at the retail level itself. When you're dealing with, let's say anyone from an airline to a fresh market. Fresh market's got a pretty unique distribution layout. How do you think about each store strategically? Are they all kind of like you have a strategy, each individual store, or is it more broadly, these are the 6 SKUs, the 3 SKUs we want, here's the price point, here's our promo schedule? How do you treat differing customer base, differing distribution?
Well, I mean, ultimately, we really want to get it down to 4 hero SKUs because that's going to be a lot easier on manufacturing. And that way, we're able to crank out those four and then have the other two that are either limited buys or we're rotating them in on a seasonal basis. But I also know that in food and beverage, innovation is so important. So coming out with new flavors on a regular basis is key. So figuring out how to manage that. But I would say part of our strategy is definitely wanting to focus on our core SKUs, focusing on what we know is going to sell. But it depends on the region and where the product's being sold. Because on the West Coast, I might want to sell my Blue Dream SKU because it has hemp and blue spirulina, where those consumers are a bit more educated on these ingredients, as opposed to selling a Blue Dream SKU in Illinois, where someone might not know what blue spirulina is, or just because there's hemp in it, maybe there's THC and CBD in it. So it also comes down to how educated is the consumer based on the territory. And then every single retailer, they have their own different promotional requirements. Typically they require 16-week minimum to be on promotion, but outside of that, they have ad programs, marketing programs, buy one get one. You can do all these different, you can get like an end cap or something like that. So it really is based on the retailer. It's not really a copy and paste or one size fits all strategy. But it definitely is important to think about who your customer is based on the region and what they're interested in buying.
And so with your product, are you selling currently almost, is it 100% individual cans in the cold box? Do you do dry shelf, 4 packs, 6 packs? What are the pack sizes and what's your priority?
Yeah, so our product is cold chain because it's a living product, so it has to be cold at all times. And we only sell by the each right now, so single can. But down the line, we definitely want to get to multi-pack based on the data that we're seeing. There's a lot of good opportunity there. So, and it also ties into our mission, making kombucha lifestyle, getting the variety pack. So we definitely want to head in that direction down the line.
And I think the individual piece is compelling from a distribution and execution standpoint because higher velocity, I assume the velocity is pretty rapid, pretty much being that it has to be cold stored. How often is the store getting refilled with products on a regular, even if it was weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, what's the good turn cycle for you?
Yeah, I would say bi-weekly. Stores are typically getting new orders, especially if it's from one of these big distributors where they're bringing a bunch of other stuff and they can bring you a case or two. Whereas when we were doing DSD, direct distribution, we have an order minimum because it doesn't make sense for us to go and deliver a single case. So maybe it's like monthly or even like 6 weeks for a slow coffee shop. But for a high volume grocery store, they're probably getting orders every week or every other week based on the location. In terms of the velocity piece, I mean, mean, like, yes, it could help velocity, but if you think about it, if I'm selling an 8-pack or I'm selling eaches, I can sell one 8-pack and my velocity automatically goes to 2 units per
Yeah.
store per week for those SKUs. So
Threshold. Is that usually is that the 2 units per SKU per store?
feel no, 3 is about average. 3
Yeah.
is kind of where you want to be. Yeah, 3 and above. 6 is like really good. 6 to 7, that's what the top brands are doing, like Health Aid and GT.
And in the category, there's been so much, I don't want to say, like, I guess, blurring of lines because you've had traditionally you had kombucha and then you had have LaCroix, sparkling water, you have soda. And then you have the poppy and Olipop, where you start breaking. You have the blending of its probiotic soda and then you have Zevia. So you've seen a lot of these categories really start to like almost overlap. How do you do that competitively? You look at an Olipop as a competitor or someone buying Olipop, not necessarily shopping in your category.
Yes and no. Yes, because they are promoting gut health. No, because people are buying Olipop and Poppy as a soda replacement. They're not drinking it for the health benefits. Whereas kombucha, people are buying it for the health benefit for your gut, for the health benefits first. And flavor is important, but I feel that when you're buying a kombucha product, flavor is almost second. But for us, we really want flavor to be first. We want people to rethink the way that they're purchasing kombucha to focus on flavor first, function second as well. So once the consumer kind of starts to shift this mindset and we can get our cost of goods to be aligned with an Olipop or Poppy, then that's when we're going to be fully competing with them. But every single store that you go in has a dedicated kombucha set. So I don't think that your average consumer is deciding between, am I going to get an Olipop or a Poppy, or am I going to get a Rmbr? I think they're getting both actually, based on the usage case and also based on the benefits that they're looking to achieve from both of them. But there is a gray area with the way that people understand them, because a lot of people think pre and probiotics are the same thing. And now postbiotics are starting to become popular because they're shelf stable. So yeah, there's a lot of innovation happening quick, and there's definitely blurred lines, but I wouldn't say that they are direct competitors with what we're doing.
You're still competing with GT, you're competing with Health Aid. You're thinking of that as more of your direct competition to somebody in this.
100%.
That's who I'm deciding between.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. I like it. And so obviously athletic background. It's just similar. I played baseball in college myself, and so I think the lessons of that really transition well into entrepreneurship. How do you feel that the athletics and career prior to this have played a role in your success or ability to build a business?
It's been everything. I mean, from discipline to time management to doing things that you don't want to do often. It's been essential for the success of this business and just has really shaped the person that I am. So I'm super grateful that my parents put me in sports at a young age. And it also just really teaches you about team chemistry, teamwork, working with other people, supporting other people, being happy for your teammates, being humble, and not worrying about your own accolades, but focusing on the success of the team. I mean, being an athlete growing up if I wasn't an athlete growing up, there's no way that I would have had the courage to even start this and the determination to continue doing this venture. I would have quit a long time ago. But I
Right.
understand that it's a process. Like in high school, our motto was trust the process. And, you come short many times, and then you just keep trusting the process and believing in what you're doing, and that it's going to work and click at some point. And then, sure enough, if you don't quit, it's going to happen. It has to.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, we talk about it a lot. It's just about surviving long enough to be successful. A lot of times you just need to be able to figure out how to scrap by the tough days, those really challenging, issues where you're trying to figure out how to cover unpaid payables and how am I going to collect, how am I going to take care of this pallet that hasn't been shipped yet? All the things.
Right.
A lot of that, I think, is just being able to look at it and say, I know it'll be better if I can just make it today. I think the biggest takeaway, especially I'm sure you deal with this quite a bit, is what your entrepreneur does, the acceptance, the ability to have your failure process. 3 out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame, right? That was always the mentality. Same thing goes if I get turned away by VCs or investors or from retailers. I just need a few of them to like be 0-1. and I can have a chance. I think that ability to deal with failure is such an important part of building a brand, particularly a CPG brand, where most of what we encounter is failure until it's success.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's constantly being not even it's always another time. Like the way that I've kind of restructured the way that I think about rejection is just not right now. Like now is just not the right time because there's been so many instances where I've been turned down and then a couple years later it works out. So it's just about being consistent and kind of restructuring the way that you think about it. That think about all the emails that you get about from service providers, right? The reason why you either delete the email or don't answer is because now is not the right time. There's no need. But if they reach out 2 years later and your needs have changed, then you're going to respond to the email because it's something that you need.
Yeah, you guys just stick after, stay with it, be persistent. And that's a great, maybe last question I like to ask everybody. Going back in time, let's say it's, you're talking to yourself leaving college, or you're talking to a friend who's starting a brand. Looking back on what you've been through, your journey building Rmbr, and considering what it was like before you get that first retail placement. If you go back in time before you took that Mariano's order, before you picked up retail, what is one piece of advice you would give yourself today that you didn't know that experience had to teach you?
I would say that this is probably going to be the hardest thing that you'll ever do, but you need to keep your head down and stay locked in and focused and don't give up on what you're doing because when you put time and energy into something, the universe does conspire to help you. And I'm a strong and firm believer of that, that when you continue to nurture something and the business it's a living organism, you just got to keep giving it energy and love every single day that they'll start to turn and you'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I would have been real with myself and said, hey man, this is hard, but like you can do it if you stay locked in and focused and just keep the head down and keep working.
It's faith and focus gets you pretty far in this world. I think that's a perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. I really enjoyed hearing more about Rmbr and what you've been able to build with your team. Really love the mentality and perspective you're bringing to the CPG space, and I'm excited to see the brand continue to grow. I hope everyone has a chance to check it out. Look for it at retail sets. Obviously, it's in kombucha section. Try all 6 flavors. I know I'm going to keep an eye out for myself. If anything we talked about today sounds familiar from your retail space of breaking into retail, scaling, growing, managing what's happening at the shelf, come visit us at shopwithfb.com. Sign up for a free demo, and we'll help you get visibility into your most important stores on demand anytime. Thank you for listening, and as always, know thy shelf.